To say I'm joined by the brilliant former Conservative Party leader, Sir Iain Duncan Smith. Good morning to you, Iain.
Good morning, Alex. Standing in for Julia.
I know, but I do get my own little bit on a Friday every now and then when they let me out of my cellar to come up like a screaming banshee. Let's first of all listen to Peter Mandelson being interviewed by our very own Harry Cole on his new show, Harry Cole Saves the West.
One, I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done. And I regret very much that I fell for his lies. I fell and accepted assurances that he had given me about his indictment, his original criminal case in Florida. Like very many people, I took at face value what he said. With hindsight, with fresh information, many years later, we realized that we had been wrong to believe him. He's a charismatic criminal liar, we now see, and I regret very much indeed. I felt it like an albatross around my neck since his death in 2018 or 19, when it was. I feel a tremendous sense of regret, not only that I met him in the first place, but that I continued the association and I took at face value the lies that he fed me and many others.
Oh, my heart bleeds. I feel so sorry for him, Iain. I mean, this poor man, he's so naive. He was in the upper echelons of politics and he can't spot a fraud, a narcissist and a flagrant paedophile when he's best friends with one.
I don't know if you heard it as well. I thought I heard violins in the background. I just thought I did, the sobbing going on in the back, because he's been obviously misused. The fact is, you should remember that Peter Mandelson is the arch spin doctor of all time. So there is a man now trying to spin that somehow he is sorry. The truth is, he has a record of being constantly close to these very powerful, wealthy characters. I remember he used to use the yacht for Deripaska, who is one of those sanctioned Russian oligarchs as well. So this is not a man who just happened to fall into the lap, as it were, of Epstein. I mean, this is a man that has made a big thing about always being with wealthy people that could shower money on him and things like that. So all I would say is the whole issue, the idea that you can be a friend of his, you can be there the whole time and call him your best friend and not have any clue at all that there are women being used in the way that he was. I find it very hard to believe, and I have to tell you that I think that there are big questions to be asked of the Prime Minister. When did he know anything at all about this relationship that Mandelson had with Deripaska? Did he know it before he appointed him? If so, why did he appoint him? If he didn't know, well, what the hell are his security staff and his intelligence staff not telling him about what they knew, and they certainly knew, about the relationship that he had with Deripaska? So very big questions for the government today on Prime Minister's Questions, but are going to continue. So it's one crisis after another for Keir Starmer.
Do you think his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein warrants his position being called into question? Should he be sacked?
I don't see how Peter Mandelson can now continue as the UK's ambassador to the United States. I just think there's no way on earth he'll be taken seriously. I think that with all this rumbling on in the United States anyway, I think it would be impossible for the UK to get a position at all to make statements about things that are happening in the US or things that are happening on the wider front abroad, such as Gaza, Ukraine, all these areas, because every time he will appear, people will point the finger and go, wasn't that the man that visited Jeffrey Epstein and stayed with Jeffrey Epstein after he had been convicted as a paedophile?
Let's move on, as we all think Peter Mandelson should also do, to talk about this. I mean, Iain, I despair. I really do. The fact that these people who have broken into our country, who have flagrantly broken into multiple countries, who are canny enough and savvy enough to know how to work with, pay people traffickers and cross an entire continent. I don't regard these people as in any way poor little scared victims. I think they're fairly industrious human beings, those who manage to get on boats to to come into our country. And now apparently 200 of these people have lodged legal claims for unlawful detention and mistreatment by the Home Office at the Manston Migrant Holding Centre near Dover. Of course, they're citing the ECHR. Now, when I'm well-travelled, I've been to many different countries of the world, and I'm fairly certain if I tried to barge my way into Kotoko Airport in a car without a visa and without a passport, I'd probably be grabbed by the scruff of my neck and put in far worse conditions than Manston.
Yeah, there's two or three things to be completely clear about this. First of all, the only victims in all of this are the children. The children that have been taken onto these terrible rickety boats. We saw the other day, yesterday, that children have died as a result of that. They don't get any say in this. People pay to go on the boats. This is not as though they're being dragooned onto the boats. They pay a lot of money to get on the boats because they want to come to the UK. So this is a matter of choice and a matter of money. So the key problem here is that our whole setup around the human rights laws is completely bonkers. And the reality is here that we are now beginning to see two things happening. One is constant judge-made interpretation turning it into law. So all the excessive interpretation of what were very general statements, bad as they are, general statements in the Convention of Human Rights set up after the Second World War to try and stop people like Hitler ever coming back. It wasn't about migrants. And the second thing is that you're seeing now a lot of these sort of ambulance-chasing lawyers. Now, there's no question that some lawyers have got to these characters and said, oh, just look what you could do. Give us 5% or 10% or whatever, and we will pursue this case to try and get some money off you. And, of course, what happens then, the judges then start to rule on this area, and governments are in a complete mess. The only way to do this the end of the day is to say to them, if you land on the UK shores, you will be heading further away from the UK than when you started. And that was the Rwanda scheme, and that fell not because we couldn't get it through, but because we couldn't get the changes made to the law. You have to now either opt out or break that link with the Convention of Human Rights, but not just that, a whole bunch of other things like the Refugee Convention, some of the rights of the child. I trust UK judges to be sensible when they lose this and make the right decisions based on what's right for people.
I mean, I think it's worth talking about, frankly, and I've been saying this for a while, that there is an international illegal immigration industrial complex. There are people traffickers making vast amounts of money.
Billions.
Yes, it's bit more than the illicit drugs trade. There are the people traffickers, terrorist organisations, leftist lawyers, these big hoteliers, people who are buying up rental accommodation and turning them into HMOs, NGOs. There were all sorts of people making an absolute fortune out of this, and I think that needs to be made patently clear more often.
Well, Alec, I have to tell you that if you really examine it, what's happened to British government over the last 15 years is that we have basically been taken over by left-wing human rights lawyers who have now changed the nature of government and made it difficult for anybody to govern. I mean, you only have to look at the ridiculous nonsense that the government's got into on the Chagos deal, handing over critical strategic territory to a country which actually is very close now to China and doesn't seem to like the UK very much. So we lose our control ultimately over that. We've no idea where that will go in due course. But the reality is that, why? Because all the Starmer, Hermer is now Attorney General, and the lawyer that took the case for Mauritius to get back the Chagos Islands, they're all in the same chambers, I understand. Yep. All human rights buddies. So now what's happening, you might as well kind of forget about government, it seems to me at times, and I look at this, because government is now second-guessed all the way through by this constant driving determination to make everything about people's human rights rather than what is better for the UK. And that is the problem now. And, you know, the trouble for this government is they start in that court. So, you know, and the nonsense, by the way, that they got that somehow you're going to crack the gangs. These are the same gangs that are involved, by the way, in drug dealing, all that sort of stuff as well. They are seeing a profit, and the risk for them is nominal. Right. You know, these guys will pay their money, get them across, they don't care what happens to them. And that's where we're left with thousands upon thousands of people sitting languishing because we can't get their court cases through because they keep claiming the right to family life and all these other nonsenses which we have to get rid of.
I couldn't agree more. And what do you make of this, the fact that Locals in Hull really angry that a particular former hotel has legally applied to become an HMO in order to accommodate asylum seekers there. It's going to be, therefore, one of the largest houses of multiple occupancy with 122 bedrooms. I mean, come on, that is not a house, that is still a hotel. The Portland Hotel, which was once a swanky 4-star attraction when it opened in the 1960s, sits empty, but it's now going to be used to house these migrants by essentially, it's a bit like that thing where, you know, it's not a man, it's a woman because it's got a dress on. Oh, it's not a hotel, it's now a house.
Well, I can see why the hotels are doing it, because they're looking at the government thinking these people are a complete mess. They need accommodation because they can't get people sent away. And so the reality is, I tell you what we'll do, we'll get full occupancy all the year round. We'll go and declare ourselves an HMO. I mean, that is how stupid the whole thing is. I don't blame hotels for doing it because the government's ready to stuff money down their throats and say, you know, if you give us these spaces, they'll be occupied 24 hours a day, you know, 12 months in the year. So, of course, a hotel that may be in some difficulty will say, yeah, let's do that. The problem is the legal position should be quite different. These hotels should not be being used to house migrants. The reality is there's, you know, it becomes a greater pull factor, the fact that you're going to be staying in a hotel rather than actually being processed in a camp, which isn't all that comfortable. So I have to say that this is yet another mess that we seem to have got into, but we now need to block all of that and say hotels cannot be used as migrant centres.
And as we look at the sort of rapidly changing demography of the United Kingdom, there are various people who are calling on Shabana Mahmood to urgently change the rules when it comes to migrants who can claim citizenship, saying that they should actually extend that to make sure migrants wait 10 years before they can apply for the right to stay in the UK indefinitely. I mean, it's something I would fully back. I don't understand equally why people come into this country and seem to have immediate access to all sorts of things, from housing to benefits to NHS care. It makes a mockery of all of the Brits who've been paying into the system, whose ancestors built this country, who find themselves all of a sudden at the back of the queue.
Yeah, well, it comes down to the single fact that this government attacked the whole idea of Rwanda, which was about saying to people, don't risk it, don't give your money away because it won't be worth it, you'll be sent somewhere else. The only way in which you can stop this is to make sure the disincentive for people coming across is greater than the incentive. And that at the moment it's the other way round. And because the government has got rid of all the legislation that would have been key to Rwanda, because they're not prepared to take on this issue of what to do about human rights. And by the way, most of Europe now is debating this issue on the Convention of Human Rights. Italy is talking for big change. France has been saying it. The Germans are talking about it. You know, here we are languishing right in the arrears of this because we should be talking about getting rid of this constant nonsense that allows judges to overrule what Parliament has done. Parliament's meant to be the Supreme Court of Britain, and now it's become shunted into some kind of backwater where everything we do gets reinterpreted by the judges, and we get told, forget it, there's a higher law than what you produce, which is ridiculous because the British public didn't vote for the Convention of Human Rights. They voted for British governments, and those British governments should have the right and the power to be able to say, no, we don't agree with this, and what we're going to do is do something different. And until we do that, we will keep on seeing the boats coming across because there is no disincentive, and the risks, they say, are less than the incentive.
Iain, it's been brilliant catching up with you today. Thank you ever so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and opinions. There must be some sort of Latin word for governance by the judiciary. Is it judiocracy or something? I mean, we really need to get back to democracy, don't we? Right.